No one could have predicted that this would be the very last Lunar New Year in human history. Following an unprecedented solar flare eruption, a deadly cold wave descended. From then on, spring was gone forever. In just 3 short days, global temperatures plummeted from above freezing straight down to -50 degrees. And the return commuter train I was on was trapped deep in the mountains by the massive blizzard. As the temperature outside plunged to -100 degrees, the train's power grid completely failed. People inside the train turned on each other, fighting tooth and nail over whatever supplies were left. And my girlfriend, Lu Rian, just to get her hands on an extreme weather survival suit, tricked me into going outside to clear the snow jammed in the train doors. But the moment those doors opened, she pushed me out into the wasteland, leaving me to freeze to my bitter end. When I opened my eyes again, I was right back there, boarding that nightmare of a train with her. But this time, I got off early, fully geared up. Without even looking back, I trudged through the snow, following the trail markers I had set up in advance, and made it back to my warm, fortified bunker. Nobody knew I had been given a second chance at life, and absolutely no one could have imagined that the post-holiday commuter train would turn into a one-way trip to hell. Suddenly, I felt a rush of warm air hit my face, my eyes snapped open, my pupils dilated in shock, and I shot up from my seat. The girl sitting next to me jumped, shrinking back in fear at my sudden outburst. I looked down at my own hands. They were perfectly normal, no frostbite, no decaying skin. I threw my head back and let out a wild, manic laugh right there in the cabin. In this life, I'm not just going to survive. I'm going to make sure those monsters get exactly what they deserve. Right then, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a text from Lu Rian. "Babe, I just saw a bag I really love. It's only 28,000, and it's a limited edition." Seeing that message, I instantly remembered how I reacted in my past life. I had taken all my savings from eating instant noodles for months, and maxed out my credit cards just to scrounge up the money for her, all for a pathetic "you're the best, babe." But when the end of the world came, just for half a stale cracker in that train car, she cursed me out, calling me a worthless piece of trash. And when it came down to it, she shoved me to my doom with her own 2 hands. Staring at the message on my screen, a cold, ruthless smirk crept across my face. 28,000 isn't enough, I typed. I'm sending you 50,000. Go treat yourself to an even better one. I started feeding her empty promises, just to keep her completely oblivious. Then, I closed my eyes, trying to remember the exact spot where that train was finally forced to stop in my past life. There were rumors back then about an undiscovered extinct volcanic rift nearby. Deep underground, there was a hidden river of boiling magma, which kept the area at a constant, warm temperature all year round. In this life, I'm going to hollow out the core of that very mountain. I'll build an impenetrable geothermal eco-bunker. Right after that, I started opening every single loan app I could find. My phone started buzzing like crazy with text alerts. The screen was instantly flooded with endless verification codes. In less than 10 minutes, my bank balance skyrocketed from 50,000 to a staggering 1.2 million. Next up, I'm liquidating every single asset to my name. I have to scrape together an astronomical sum of cash in just 5 days. I walked into the bathroom and splashed some cold water on my face. Lu Rian, and to this doomed, cursed world, let the games begin. The next day, I walked out of the property exchange center. I pulled out my phone to do some quick math. If everything goes through smoothly, my total funds should hit 4.5 million in 3 days. And just to keep Lu Rian completely in the dark, I took her straight to the Louis Vuitton boutique. That day, I showed Lu Rian what a true pre-doomsday carnival looks like. Bought a 260,000 yuan designer bag on the spot. For the Porsche Macan, I went with the absolute most expensive Bordeaux red interior. Even though we had to wait a month to actually pick up the car, I didn't hesitate at all. I swiped my credit card and dropped a 50,000 yuan deposit. After that, I took her out for a romantic candlelight dinner at an ultra-high-end restaurant. 20,000 yuan a bottle for red wine? I didn't even blink. I ordered 2 of them. Lu Rian felt like she was living in an absolute dream, while frantically posting on social media to show off to everyone. She looked at me with pure adoration in her eyes. "Darling, so, when are we getting married?" My mom said as long as the dowry is paid, we can officially tie the knot this year, she asked tentatively. I gently swirled my wine glass, staring out at the city's glittering night skyline. With a hazy, loving gaze, I replied, "The dowry isn't a problem at all. But I might have to go away on a business trip for a while. The company has a massive project down in the southwestern mountains. If I manage to pull this off, forget about just paying a dowry. I'll buy you a whole luxury villa, paid in full." My heartbeat didn't even hitch as I lied right to her face. Lu Rian was completely blinded by the money by now. She didn't suspect a single thing I was plotting. All she cared about was that her personal ATM had just been upgraded. It had turned into a full-blown money printer. Late that night, I took a completely wasted Lu Rian back to her rented apartment. Standing down below in the empty street, I looked up at the glowing lights of her window. "Sleep tight, Lu Rian. Because when you wake up, you'll realize this entire world has completely changed. And your absolute worst nightmare is just beginning." Right at that moment, my phone buzzed with a text notification. Funds received, the final payment from mortgaging my house, the cash from selling off my car, and the very last online loan payout had all cleared. I now had a total of 4,680,000 yuan in liquid cash. Without missing a beat, I hailed a cab and headed straight for the airport. Every single supply list, the engineering blueprints, and those absolutely crucial geographic coordinates were permanently burned into my memory. Everything back here in Zhangcheng was locked down and ready. Next stop, Yunling, to locate that hidden cave, deep within the Hengduan Mountains on the southwestern border. This is the most rugged, aggressively folded terrain in all of China. A heavily modified Jeep Wrangler was violently fighting its way up a winding, treacherous mountain road covered in loose gravel. I gripped the steering wheel tight, my sunglasses on, my eyes scanning the surrounding terrain like a hawk. Over on the passenger seat lay a detailed contour map. An unremarkable little patch was circled in bright red pen, the K3 zone, North Yunling Road. Glancing at the map in the car, I muttered to myself. According to my memories from my past life, that K1109 train broke down exactly 40 kilometers ahead, right on the Eagle Beak Cliff Bridge. The horrific, bloody scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind. A massive blizzard had completely sealed off the mountain, killing the train's power. Thousands of people were trapped inside that freezing metal tomb. A few desperate souls tried to abandon the train and make a run for it. They stumbled blindly through the brutal snowstorm halfway up the mountain, only to come back completely out of their minds, raving. I saw it, a steaming paradise. In the end, that poor maniac didn't even survive the next night before freezing to death. But the rough direction he had babbled out, my dying self had permanently burned it into my memory. Right now, it was the dead of summer. The temperature up here in the mountains was a blistering 35 degrees. I drove until the paved road simply vanished. Up ahead, there was nothing left but a muddy, rutted dirt trail carved out by loggers. I threw the Jeep in park and hoisted on my tactical backpack, which I'd meticulously prepped long ago. Inside was everything I needed: a drone, an infrared thermal scanner, a geological probe, and a heavy machete. Ditching the off-road vehicle entirely, I set off on foot, plunging straight into the heart of the primeval jungle. Swinging my machete with everything I had, I brutally hacked my way forward through the thick brush. Every step drained a massive amount of my energy, but I kept going like a tireless machine. My eyes were terrifyingly determined. 2 hours later, I climbed up a steep mountain ridge and pulled out my drone. I quickly powered it on and sent it up. The drone roared as it shot into the blue sky. The high-definition camera streamed live footage of a 5-kilometer radius straight to my controller's screen. I tapped the screen and switched on the infrared thermal imaging mode. The drone flew straight toward a mountain valley on the shaded side, passing through a thick layer of heavy fog. Suddenly, the video feed shook violently. The signal was being jammed. A surge of excitement hit me. I pushed the joystick forward to keep it going. The exact moment the drone broke through the fog again, the screen in my hands lit up. Right in the middle of all those cold, gray tones, a massive, glaringly deep red area appeared. Deep down in the valley, there was a massive entrance to a natural limestone cave. The plants around the cave opening were this eerie, dark green. Even in infrared mode, you could see billowing waves of heat pouring out, creating a massive column of rising hot air. The temperature readings on my screen were jumping like crazy. The estimated temperature inside was over 60 degrees Celsius. This was exactly what I was looking for. My nose arc for the frozen apocalypse. A natural geothermal vent connected straight to deep underground magma. If I modified it right, even if the world outside dropped to absolute zero, this cave would still feel like spring all year round, though the drone found it quickly. Hiking there on foot took me another solid 3 hours. By the time I finally stood before that massive cave entrance, the sun was already setting. A thick, heavy scent of sulfur washed over me. The entrance was about 10 meters high and 20 meters wide, flanked by solid granite on both sides. It was built like a natural bomb shelter, strong enough to survive most earthquakes and bombings. I strapped on my gas mask, flicked on my high-beam flashlight, and carefully stepped inside. The deeper I went, the hotter it got. The rocks beneath my boots were almost burning hot. I could hear the echoing sound of rushing water. After pushing about 100 meters deep into the cave, it opened up into a space the size of a football field. Countless strange stalactites hung from the ceiling, and right in the very center, the water gathered into a massive, steaming, natural hot spring lake. The water was crystal clear. It shimmered with a pale blue glow. I pulled off my gloves, crouched down, and dipped my hand in. The water was about 42 degrees. Perfect. Not only could this heat the place, but it was also perfect for daily use. With a little filtering, I could even drink it. Plus, the spring water was packed with minerals. The geothermal heat could even be tapped for electricity. And right behind the hot spring, there was a wide, flat clearing with dark, rich soil. It looked incredibly fertile, likely created by years of constant geothermal steam. It was its own unique little ecosystem. If I planted potatoes, sweet potatoes, and veggies here, all I'd need was a few full-spectrum grow lights. The temperature and environment were already perfect. I tore off my mask and took a deep, long breath. The air was incredibly humid and warm. This was going to be my kingdom. Right after that, I noticed a narrow crack in the corner of the cave. A crack that led outside. It opened right out toward the valley below, giving me a crystal clear view of the railway bridge stretching across the distant canyon. That was the exact route the K1109 train had to take. With the coordinates and the environment finally secured, I didn't waste a single second. I whipped out my satellite phone and dialed a number. This was a crew I had tracked down through the dark web forums before I even got here. A private construction crew. I told them to kick off the construction exactly to my specs. Hanging up the phone, I stared into the dark, steaming abyss right in front of me. The hardest first step was finally done. The next 4 months were gonna be a frantic race against death to build this place. I raised my hand toward the empty void and whispered, "Lu Rian, enjoy your very last summer on Earth. While you're out there, feeling all smug about snagging a designer bag, I've already dug out a nice, luxurious grave, just for you." Fast forward 3 months later. A massive, deafening boom echoed through the belly of the Yunling Mountains. The main entrance was blasted wide open with a controlled explosion. Lei, the scruffy foreman of the crew, yanked off his dust-covered hard hat, wiped the sweat off his face, and walked over to where I was sitting on a folding chair. Staring down at the blueprints, Lei lit up a cigarette. "Boss Long, the expansion you asked for is done. That block of solid rock in the way was way tougher than I thought. Burned through a dozen of my drill bits. Honestly, I've been in construction for 20 years. I've dug out wine cellars for the rich, built bomb shelters for preppers. But someone as damn crazy as you? That's a first for me." I didn't even bother looking up. Gripping the red pen, I circled an air vent on the blueprint heavily, and replied, "Money isn't the issue here. All I care about is speed. You have exactly 30 days left. I want this place locked down like a fortress." For the past 3 months, this cave saw 24-hour relentless construction across 3 different shifts. Every single worker, including Lei, was working crazy overtime to get the project done, to scrape together the massive funds needed to pay for all this. I used this 3-month window, and heavily leveraged offshore futures. I shorted some crypto shit coins right before they tanked, and miraculously pulled in a massive pile of quick cash. I then dumped all those tens of millions right back into outfitting this cave. As it stood now, this place was already looking like a legit doomsday bunker. Let's start with the entrance defense zone. The original wide opening had been completely sealed off with massive blocks of reinforced concrete. Only a single, custom-made blast door remained, 3 meters high and 2.5 meters wide. It weighed a solid 5 tons and was forged from composite armored steel. You could blast this thing with an RPG, and it would take over a dozen rockets just to scratch the paint. Right past the door was a 20-meter-long, S-shaped buffer corridor. This wasn't just to block the drafts. It was specifically designed to create deadly crossfire choke points in case of a breach. Concealed inside the walls on both sides were high-voltage electric grid nodes and industrial pepper spray vents. Pushing through the corridor led straight into the energy core. This right here was the beating heart of the base. 2 massive geothermal generators were currently being fired up and tested. They pulled the endless thermal heat from deep underground and converted it directly into power. Deeper inside was the living and hydro farming zone. We kept the original hot spring lake completely intact, paving the edges with non-slip, treated wooden decks. The steam from the spring was pumped through a heat exchange system, funneling pure warmth to every single corner of the cave. Hooked up to the central AC, it kept the entire place at a cozy, constant 26 degrees. On the dark soil by the lake, we'd already set up 3-tier vertical hydroponic racks. Intense, full-spectrum LED grow lights blasted the area, making it look as bright as high noon. And tucked away in the deepest part of the cave, perched on the highest rock platform, was my personal master suite. The whole room was sealed off from the rest of the cave with heavy, double-paned soundproof glass. The interior was done up in a minimalist industrial style, complete with a massive, plush bed and a genuine leather sofa set. The adjacent room featured a massive open-concept kitchen, along with a surveillance wall made up of 8 55-inch HD screens. I picked up the remote and pressed a button. The screens flickered to life, and the camera zoomed in. The feed showed a railway track winding deep through the canyon, and the Eagle Beak Cliff Bridge stretching across the abyss. The picture quality was unbelievably sharp. You could even see the rust on the tracks crystal clear. I had specifically hired someone to install this camera, hidden inside the hollow of a 1,000-year-old pine tree, barely 300 meters away from the bridge. The high vantage point gave it the perfect field of view. I stared at those empty tracks, a vicious, bloodthirsty gleam flashing in my eyes. Visions of the future flashed through my mind. That snowy, blizzard-swept night, exactly 5 months from now. That train K1109, packed full of despair and sin, would break down right on these tracks. And I'd be sitting right here in this warm, cozy room, swirling a glass of red wine, watching that brutal, twisted drama called human nature unfold. Oh, and I also had them install a microphone control console. I hid a massive directional speaker inside a crack in the mountain. The moment I spoke, my voice would echo through the entire canyon, and even reach inside the train itself. Soon, the day came for the construction crew to pack up and leave. Lei stared at his phone, looking at the final payment that had just hit his account. He counted the zeros on the screen over and over again. A massive grin spread across his face. Boss Long, I have no idea what the hell you're planning to do, but you pay fast and you pay well. If you ever got more work like this, remember to hit me up. I stood in front of that massive blast door. Behind me was the fully sealed fortress. I watched these workers, about to head back to the civilized world. Feeling absolutely nothing, they had no idea that what they had just built with their own hands was the very last ark on this planet, and when they took this massive sum of money back to the city, they wouldn't even get the chance to spend it. In just 2 months, the extreme cold wave would hit, turning them into frozen solid corpses. Now, even though the fortress was built, it was completely empty inside. The next month would be my time to stockpile supplies. I hired a convoy of 12 heavy-duty trucks, and cleared out several major wholesale markets out of state. From essential survival food and supplies, to extreme cold weather gear and emergency medical equipment, I crammed every single thing into the cave fortress. I even went through some special underground channels, and got my hands on 2 sets of stab-proof vests and riot helmets. When the final truck finished unloading, I stood right in the middle of a mountain of supplies. Staring at the cardboard boxes stacked all the way to the cave ceiling, an unprecedented rush of dopamine hit my brain hard. There were less than 2 months left until the cold wave erupted. Over the past 2 months, even though I'd been hiding out in the mountains, I still texted Lu Rian every single day, keeping up my persona as her deeply devoted boyfriend. I even sent her money more frequently. Except, instead of the direct bank transfers from before, I switched to making verbal promises mixed with tiny amounts of cash. I sent Rian a text saying, "Baby, the project down in the southwest has hit a critical stage. I just can't get away right now. But, I prepared a surprise for you. Let's go skiing in Raichung for the spring festival. I've already booked a top-tier luxury trip. A couple of my biggest clients will be there too. Get everything ready in advance, okay? Go through all your heavy winter clothes at home. Honestly, those old clothes don't suit your status anymore. You might as well just sell them all. Once we get there, I'll buy you a complete set of the latest seasonal luxury couture. As soon as I sent that last message, I immediately forwarded her a forged electronic train ticket. It was for that exact death train. Train K1109. Then, without skipping a beat, I dialed her number. We'll meet up on this train first. Once we arrive, we'll take a private jet to our final destination. The reason we're taking the train is because I heard the snowy scenery along the way is absolutely breathtaking. I want to see it with you. Oh, and invite your parents and your brother to come along too. Since it's the new year, the whole family should be together. I'll cover all the expenses. On the other end of the line, Lu Rian was probably already picturing that beautiful snowy landscape. Oh my gosh, hubby. You are an absolute lifesaver. I'm calling my mom right now. They're gonna go crazy with joy. I hung up the phone, turned around, and went back to the kitchen to cook my steak. In this soon-to-be frozen wasteland, I am the only hunter, and the only audience. This apocalyptic cold wave is about to put on a hell of a show. Soon, it was exactly 48 hours before the extreme freeze. The temperature outside had already dropped to -18 degrees. Exactly 2 days from now, the sunspots will erupt. The first massive cold wave will sweep across the northern hemisphere. Overnight, the temperature will plummet to below -50 degrees. Meanwhile, Lu Rian was staying in the apartment I used to rent. I had hidden pinhole cameras all over that place. At exactly 22:41 and 7 seconds, her every move was in plain sight. On the screen, Lu Rian was wearing a skimpy silk nightgown. On a freezing winter night at -10 something degrees, she had the heater blasted to 30 degrees, just lounging on the sofa. She was video calling her mother, while lazily painting her nails. She shrieked with excitement, "Mom, just relax, okay? Long Gu really struck it rich this time. I had that bag checked out. It's completely authentic, over 200,000, and the car, we haven't even picked it up yet. But I have the deposit receipt right here." From the other end of the video call came the shrill voice of a middle-aged woman. Lu Rian's mother, Zhang Quillian, spoke up. "That's wonderful. Didn't I tell you that boy had potential? Since he's rolling in cash now. When you guys go to Rui City, can you get him to buy a local apartment for your brother too? It'll make his study abroad much more convenient later." Hearing this, Lu Rian let out a smug laugh. "Oh, come on, Mom. That just takes one word from me. I have him wrapped around my little finger. If I just act a little sweet and pout, he would literally give his life for me." I kept chewing my steak, staring dead-eyed at the monitor. "Wrapped around your little finger, huh? Lu Rian, you'll find out soon enough. You'll see who's really playing who." Without missing a beat, I grabbed my phone and typed out a text to her. "Hey babe, I went ahead to Kun City early to handle the transfer paperwork. I'll meet you guys on train K1109 the day after tomorrow." I put down the phone and walked into the locker room to do a final gear check. Since I'm personally sending them off on that train, I need to be perfectly prepared. I can't arouse any suspicion, but I absolutely must stay warm and survive the freeze. I put on 3 layers of high-tech thermal underwear, then threw on a completely ordinary-looking black winter jacket. Little did they know, the inner lining of this jacket could withstand temperatures of -40 degrees. On top of that, the hidden compartments of my backpack were packed with extreme cold survival gear. And most importantly, the infrared signal transmitter. Once I jump off that moving train, this little device will guide me through the blizzard, right back to my safe house. With everything ready, I firmly pushed open the massive steel doors of the cave shelter. The howling wind and icy snow instantly blasted inside. I took a deep breath of the freezing air, and stepped out. Stepping into the howling snowstorm, the station's waiting hall for the holiday rush was absolutely packed with people. A sharp, piercing complaint rang out right at the entrance of the VIP lounge. I'm getting crushed to death. Why the hell are there so many of these broke losers around?" Lu Rian was wearing a flashy pink coat, clutching her brand new crocodile skin handbag. Right behind her trailed her mother, Zhang Quillian, and her father, Lu Dacheng. Along with her thick-headed brat of a little brother, Lu Hao. He was rocking a supposedly trendy, but completely uninsulated baseball jacket. Actually, none of them were dressed for the freezing cold. Just then, the intercom buzzed to life, announcing that it was time to check tickets and board the train. Flaunting their first-class sleeper tickets, Rion's family strutted arrogantly straight through the VIP lane, completely dodging the crowd of migrant workers lugging their heavy bags. But what they didn't know was that from a dark corner of that very crowd, I was watching their every move, hidden beneath a black baseball cap and a face mask. I didn't use my sleeper ticket to take the VIP lane. Instead, I swapped it for a standard hard seat with an old laborer. Sure, the sleeper cabin is comfortable, but it's way too enclosed. It's a terrible spot for keeping watch, or making a quick escape. The standard carriage might be chaotic, but it's right next to the exit doors. Plus, it gives me a front row seat to the real, unhinged chaos. The train departed right on the dot, carving its way through the endless, blindingly white wasteland. The heating inside the carriage was blasting, so hot, in fact, that people were already peeling off their heavy winter coats. They started cracking sunflower seeds, chatting, and playing cards. But as the train rolled further out of the city limits, the scenery outside rapidly turned bleak and desolate. I claimed a window seat, perfectly positioned for a quick bailout if needed. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a video call request from Rian. I hesitated for a split second, before hitting accept, but I made sure to keep my face out of the frame. Instead, I pointed the camera toward my dark reflection on the pitch-black window pane. Rian's sweet, demanding voice echoed through the speaker. "Hey honey, where are you hiding? We're over in carriage number 9. Oh my gosh, it is seriously so luxurious in here. Why haven't you come over yet?" I lowered my voice, putting on a fake, exhausted tone. I'm still stuck back in the dining car, dealing with some annoying work emails. The reception here is pretty awful. You guys just go ahead and rest up without me. Don't wait up, I'll come find you as soon as I wrap this up. Rian pouted, laying on the charm. Oh, come on, you're so annoying sometimes. We're supposed to be on vacation and you're still working. Just hurry up, okay? Mom says she wants to talk to you about buying that new house in Raichung City. Hearing that, a cold, mocking smirk crept across my face. Tell your mom not to worry. She'll get her house, a massive one, in fact. One she can stay in, forever. I hung up the call. By now, the cell reception had already plummeted from full bars down to just one. The train was plunging deep into the mountains. In exactly 3 hours, we would be completely swallowed up by the heart of the Hongduan mountain range. Once we hit that point, the signal would be dead completely. By 11 o'clock at night, the temperature inside the cabin started feeling dangerously wrong. The stifling heat from earlier was rapidly fading into a bitter chill. That mother a few seats down had already bundled her little kid back up in a thick winter coat. People around me started grumbling. What the hell is going on? Did the heater just break down? But I knew the heater wasn't broken. The horrifying truth was that the temperature outside was plummeting way too fast. I shot a quick glance at the barometer and thermometer on my smartwatch. The cabin was dropping to 15 degrees Celsius, meaning the temperature outside had likely crashed to a brutal -40 degrees. Suddenly, the conductor's panicked voice cracked over the intercom. Attention, all passengers, due to the extreme blizzard conditions ahead, the overhead lines are freezing over, so the train is temporarily dropping its speed. I felt the dagger hidden up my sleeve, and my eyes sharpened. I could feel it. The grinding of the wheels against the tracks was getting much heavier. The built-up snow was dragging us down, and to make matters worse, we were climbing a steep incline. Up ahead is the Eagle Beak Cliff section, which is exactly where I planned to get off. The cabin lights suddenly flickered violently for a few seconds, then completely died out. The emergency lights instantly clicked on, casting a pale, ghostly glow over everything. Right after that, the train let out an ear-piercing screech from the brakes. The massive jolt sent plenty of standing passengers crashing to the floor. Sitting perfectly still in my seat, I didn't move an inch. I looked out through the frost-covered window, and saw the faint outline of the cliff outside. 500 meters straight above my head was that geothermal cave, as warm as spring. Meanwhile, down here was about to turn into a literal meat freezer. Over in soft sleeper carriage 9, Lu Rian and her family were huddled tightly in blankets, shivering uncontrollably. Lu Hao viciously slammed his phone down. What is this garbage train? How the hell is there no power and no signal? My ranked match was right in the middle of a team fight. Rian, hurry up and call Long Ji-yu. Tell him to come pick us up. It's freezing to death in this hellhole. Hearing that, Lu Rian frantically whipped out her phone and dialed my number. What's going on? Why is there no signal? Staring at her screen, sheer panic washed over Lu Rian. She wrapped her thin pink coat tighter around herself, as an unprecedented sense of dread crept into her chest. Meanwhile, over in carriage 14, I stood up. I zipped my hardshell jacket all the way up and strapped on my tactical gloves. By the faint glow of the emergency lights, I cast a cold glance over the panicked crowd around me. Some people were sobbing, while others were desperately trying to smash the windows open. I grabbed my backpack and threw it on, taking advantage of the sheer chaos while the conductor went to check the lines. I slipped silently toward the carriage connection point. The very first thing on my list wasn't to go find Lu Rian. It was to crack open that door to hell, treating everyone on this train to a massive, freezing blast of winter air. Because only when the freezing cold truly sets in, will the fragile, paper-thin illusion of human decency be completely ripped to shreds. Before long, the cabin's emergency lights flickered out completely as the backup power drained away. The temperature had already plummeted to a terrifyingly dangerous low. I tucked myself into the corner by the window, my muscles completely tense. The graphene thermal gear I was wearing was already burning through its first battery pack. A steady, comforting flow of heat wrapped around my vital organs, keeping me safe. The little kid next to me couldn't even cry out loud anymore, just weakly whimpering for a sip of water. The young mother desperately twisted open her thermos, only to realize that the warm water inside, from just half an hour ago, had already frozen into a solid block of ice. She frantically hugged the metal flask, trying to warm it with her own body heat. But it was completely useless. Right at that moment, an angry, explosive shout erupted from the row in front. "Take that damn jacket off right now." I said, "Strip it off." In the weak, fading glow of a phone screen, I saw a massive, tattooed thug wearing a dangerously thin leather jacket. He was gripping a folding knife, pointing it straight at a nerdy college kid with glasses next to him. That poor college kid was wearing a massive, thick-down puffer jacket. Before all this went down, that jacket was just an ordinary piece of clothing. But right now, it meant survival. The kid was trembling violently in pure terror, his tears and snot instantly freezing right onto his face. "Please, man, don't do this. If I give it to you, I'll absolutely freeze to death out here. Hand it over, or you're done for right now." The thug's eyes were totally bloodshot as he lunged forward, and the surrounding crowd erupted into terrified screams. But most people just shrank back. No one stepped up to help. In the face of extreme cold and terror, morality was more fragile than the frost on the windows. Staring at the furious thug, the college student trembled, and stripped off his life-saving puffer jacket. The big guy snatched it up, shoved it on, and let out a deep groan of relief. Stripped of his last line of defense, the student hugged his knees and curled up under the seat. In less than 10 minutes, his eyebrows and hair were completely coated in white frost. The freezing blizzard quickly consumed his body. He convulsed violently a few times, and then stopped moving. I just sat there, watching it all unfold with cold detachment. My hands were buried in my pockets, tightly gripping the handle of my tactical shovel. My only priority right now was making sure I didn't become the next victim. Meanwhile, over in soft sleeper carriage number 9, Lu Rian's family wasn't doing much better. Wrapped in 2 heavy blankets, Rian's lips were still turning purple from the cold. Lu Hao had piled every single pillow in the cabin on top of himself. Suddenly, Hao remembered something and bolted upright. "Sis, I just remembered. The guy in the next cabin is just an old man. I saw him lugging a massive trunk full of thick military coats." Rian's eyes instantly lit up. The sheer greed in her gaze somehow overpowered the freezing cold. Hearing this, Lu Dachang immediately grabbed a heavy thermos. "Come on, let's go, borrow a few coats. What's one old geezer gonna do about it?" Zhang Quilian chimed in, perfectly shameless. "Exactly, we're just borrowing. Once Long Ji-yu gets here, we'll just pay him double, simple as that." Driven by pure survival instinct, the family of 4 bared their fangs. They shoved their cabin door open and stormed right next door. A few seconds later, the old man's startled cries echoed from the room. Then came the heavy thuds of a struggle, followed by the sound of luggage being violently torn apart. Moments later, the family of 4 marched back into their cabin. Every single one of them was bundled up in a faded green, vintage military coat. Sure, they looked hideous, but the deep, heavy warmth of the thick cotton made them groan in pure comfort. As for the old man next door, they couldn't care less. Wrapped tightly in her military coat, Rian clutched her crocodile skin bag. She stared out at the pitch-black blizzard beyond the glass, and for the very first time, a sliver of real panic crept into her heart. By 4 a.m., the situation in the hard-seat carriage was spiraling completely out of control. The tattooed thug who stole the puffer jacket had clearly gotten a taste of power. His eyes started prowling around the cabin, hunting for his next target. It didn't take long for him to lock onto me, sitting quietly in the corner. The reason was simple enough. I might not have looked like much, but I was way too calm. Plus, the windbreaker I was wearing looked thin, but the material was obviously high-end. But most importantly, it was the bulging tactical backpack resting by my feet. His gut was telling him there was food inside. Flanked by 2 lackeys he'd just recruited, the big guy swaggered his way over to me. "Hey, brat, open up the bag. Let the big boys take a look inside. We suspect you're hiding contraband. Hee hee hee, ha ha ha." The crowd around me instantly scattered, clearing out a wide, empty circle. A terrified mother nearby clamped a hand over her child's mouth. I slowly raised my head and slipped the tactical shovel from my coat. The next second, my tactical shovel smashed right through the table next to me. Even the chair beside it got sliced clean in half. Boss and his 2 goons were absolutely terrified by my strength. I just told them to get lost, and the 2 lackeys dragged their boss away. They scrambled back to the other train car as fast as they could. I looked around. Anyone who caught my eye immediately lowered their head in fear. I glanced at my watch. The train was stopped exactly at my planned escape point, right at the edge of Eagle Beak Cliff Bridge. The straight line distance to my geothermal bunker was only 800 meters. With a vertical drop of 300 meters. Taking advantage of the chaos, I strapped on my backpack. I turned and headed for the restroom between the cars. Pulling a can of heavy-duty de-icer from my bag, I sprayed it heavily along the frozen window seams. Then, I kicked the glass with everything I had. The freezing cold had already made it brittle, and it shattered instantly. A howling gale immediately blasted into the train. Without a second thought, I jumped right out of the window. I landed in the snowdrift on the leeward slope. The 2-meter deep snow acted like a giant sponge, absorbing the massive impact. I struggled to pull myself out of the deep crater. Looking back down, about 100 meters below me, train K1109 looked like a frozen, dead snake. It lay trapped on the bridge by the cliff. Inside the cars, the emergency lights flickered on and off. I could faintly hear the sounds of crying and things being smashed. Opening my backpack, I took out a professional ice axe and a pair of crampons. After quickly throwing on my goggles, I flicked on the night vision. The blindingly white world instantly turned a ghostly green. In front of me was a steep slope angled at nearly 60 degrees. Relying on my gear, I started climbing up, step by step. 50 meters up, my fingers started going numb. Even with the heated gloves, my circulation was barely holding on. 100 meters up, my thigh muscles started cramping. I bit the tip of my tongue hard enough to draw blood. Using the sharp pain to keep myself awake, the sheer will to survive pushed me forward. After 2 grueling hours of climbing for my life, I finally pulled myself over the final ridge. A massive, jutting rock appeared ahead, and right there, hidden in its shadow, the perfectly camouflaged entrance was quietly waiting for me. I stumbled and rushed over, frantically tearing away the camouflage netting and snow covering the blast door. The freezing cold titanium door was finally exposed. With trembling hands, I pulled off my gloves and pressed my bruised, half-frozen palm against the scanner. I leaned into the iris reader, forcing my eyes wide open against the stinging, blinding snow. With a deep roar from the hydraulics, the 5-ton blast door slowly cracked open. Using every last ounce of my strength, I squeezed inside. Instantly, the heavy door detected my entry and sealed shut behind me, completely locking out the bone-chilling cold. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. After catching my breath, I opened the 3rd airtight door and stepped into the main living quarters. The temperature inside was a perfect 26 degrees Celsius. The air was filled with the faint, fresh scent of plants. A central humidifier was quietly spraying a gentle mist. Over on the hydroponic racks, the lettuce and tomatoes were thriving. They looked incredibly mouth-watering under the pink grow lights. I greedily breathed in the warm air. Then, I headed into the bathroom and took a long, incredibly comfortable hot shower. Half an hour later, wearing a white bathrobe and holding a steaming cup of latte, I walked back into the main living room. Sinking into the leather sofa, I kicked my feet up on the coffee table and said, "Activate panoramic surveillance." With a sharp beep, the massive 85-inch screen on the wall instantly lit up. The display split into a 9-panel grid. The largest feed in the center showed train K1109, already half buried in the snow. I switched the camera angle. I brought up the live feed from inside car 9. Before boarding the train, I had secretly planted tiny bugs and pinhole cameras in the hallway and a few hidden corners. The batteries were good for 2 days. The footage showed absolute chaos. The emergency lights were completely dead. In the pitch black, Lu Rian was huddled up, tightly wrapped in that stolen military coat. She was trembling violently in the corner. Meanwhile, Lu Dacheng and Lu Hao were right next to her, frantically ripping down the curtains and bedsheets in the train car, desperately trying to set them on fire for warmth. But with the thin oxygen and the fire-resistant fabric, the sparks died out the second they caught, leaving behind nothing but thick, choking black smoke. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. I stared at the name flashing on the screen, and a cruel smirk crept across my face. I hit the answer button, putting it on speaker, but I didn't say a single word. Lu Rian's voice was shrill and grating, carrying the hysterical edge of someone at death's door. "Hello? Is that Long Ji-yu? Honey, is that you? Where are you? Help us, we're freezing to death out here. Please, you have to come save me. Didn't you say you had a private jet? Didn't you say you had a massive house?" Hearing that, I picked up the microphone connected to my voice changer. "Lu Rian, look out the window." On the other end of the line, Lu Rian froze. She instinctively looked toward the pitch-black window. Halfway up the mountain, a blinding beam of light suddenly pierced the darkness. It was the searchlight I had just flipped on from my bunker's observation deck. A deep sense of dread washed over Lu Rian, and she shrieked, "Who are you? Where is Long Ji-yu? Put Long Ji-yu on the phone right now." As the intense beam swept down from the underground bunker on the mountainside, the entire train car went dead silent for 10 solid seconds. Then, it erupted into a deafening roar. "There are people up there. Someone's up there. There's light. They have power. It has to be a rescue team. Stop pushing. Let me off first. It's a rescue station." The crowd, who just moments ago were huddled together dying of the cold, were suddenly pumped full of adrenaline. The primal urge to survive completely overrode their sanity, and even numbed them to the freezing cold. People began violently slamming into the doors and windows like lunatics. Lu Rian stared blankly at the beam of light, the tears in her eyes freezing the second they fell. But then, she started to laugh. A twisted, completely unhinged laugh. I knew it. Long Ji-yu is just trying to scare me. There's no way he'd actually leave me here. Ha 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 ha. She clutched the phone, the call still connected, and screamed desperately into the receiver. "Long Ji-yu, I knew you still loved me. You just wanted to see me suffer a little bit, right? I know I was wrong. Please, just send someone down to get us right now." But the only response from the other end of the line was the sound of me casually chewing my food. Then, my lazy, drawn-out voice echoed back. "Send someone to get you. No, Rian. You've got it all wrong. I'm the only one who gets to walk that path. For the rest of you, it's pure damnation." And with that, I hung up the phone. By now, a group of massive guys had managed to force the train doors open. A violent blizzard instantly roared inside, violently blowing the people closest to the door straight backward. But that didn't stop the crazed mob for a second. Hundreds of people poured out like a swarm of black ants, trampling over each other to jump off the train and plunge right into the waist-deep snow. They threw their heads back, staring up the mountain, their eyes locked onto that bunker glowing with warm, yellow light, sitting just out of reach, high above them. The straight-line distance looked like it was only a few hundred meters, but reality gave them a harsh slap in the face. From the Eagle Beak Cliff Bridge where the train was stranded, all the way to the entrance of my underground bunker, there was a granite cliff with an incline of almost 70 degrees. On top of that, it was covered in a thick shell of ice. When the sleet hit the freezing ground, It instantly froze into a solid armor of ice. Rushing at the very front was that big guy who snatched the down jacket. He stomped into the snow, desperately trying to climb up. For the first 10 meters, he could barely manage by using both his hands and feet. But at 20 meters, the snow thinned out, exposing the sheer ice beneath. His ordinary sneakers couldn't get any grip at all. With a sharp slip, he slid right back down, crashing heavily into the crowd. And knocking down a whole group of people. But more of them just swarmed right up. Some tried to form human ladders, while others tried to dig their fingers into the crevices of the rocks. But in the freezing -50-degree weather, the instant their fingers touched the stone, their skin would freeze right to it. The slightest pull brought agonizing, flesh-tearing pain. Miserable screams immediately echoed one after another. Lu Rian and her family were huddled right in the middle of the crowd. Lu Hao, wrapped in that borrowed military coat, spoke up. "Sis, this is bad, there's zero footing on this cliff face." Lu Rian stared up at the lights shining high above. That was her only hope of survival. Gritting her teeth, she slung her crocodile leather bag around her neck, ripped off her gloves, and tried to claw at the ice with her bare nails. As she climbed, she spat out with pure rage, "Cold-blooded Long Jiu, just you wait. I am going to climb up there. And when I do, I will make you beg on your knees for my forgiveness." Fueled by this insane hatred, she actually managed to climb up 30 meters. But right at that moment, a massive draft of wind howling from the depths of the canyon swept through. It was a level 12 hurricane-force gale. This merciless wind grabbed the dozens of people clinging to the cliff and wiped them all away. In an instant, Lu Rian felt her body go weightless. She was falling completely out of control. She tumbled and smashed against the snowy slope, before finally slamming back into the deep snow by the tracks. Agonizing pain shot through her entire body. She could feel that at least 2 of her ribs were snapped. But the most despairing part was, when she looked up, my projection was blazing across the terrace of the bunker. The massive projection screen displayed my figure. There I was, lounging in a white bathrobe, holding a glass of red wine. Right in front of me was a steaming, bubbling copper hotpot. I picked up a slice of meat, dipped it into some sesame sauce, and popped it into my mouth, letting out a completely satisfied sigh. Watching me eat that hotpot, out in the -50-degree freezing wind, broke every single survivor emotionally. That big guy who stole the down jacket completely broke down. He roared at the sky with helpless rage. "Just give me a bite. Just one bite. I'll do anything for you." But the only response he got was my voice echoing from the loudspeakers. "Good evening, everyone. Just a friendly little reminder for you all. The current outdoor temperature feels like -58 degrees. The body heat you have left will last you 20 minutes, tops. After 20 minutes, you'll all be frozen solid into ice sculptures. So, if I were you, I would drag yourselves right back to those train cars. Sure, you're dead either way, but at least you'd leave behind a whole corpse." Sitting comfortably in my room, I took another bite of my hot pot and added, "Oh, right. Miss Lu Rian. How are those ribs holding up? I just saw the way you tumbled down. It really wasn't very elegant. That doesn't match your crocodile skin bag at all." At this moment, Lu Rian felt worse than being stripped completely naked. Right then, the crowd finally regained their sanity. Or rather, the fear of death overcame their greed. Those who were scrambling over each other to climb the mountain just moments ago were now frantically scrambling to run back. Lu Dachang dragged a half-dead Lu Rian, while Zhang Quilian pulled along a cursing Lu Hao. The family crawled back into the train carriage in a totally miserable state. Meanwhile, I turned off the projector, put down my chopsticks, and calmly said, "System, report the data." Then, the system notification chimed in the room. Outdoor temperature has dropped to -60 degrees Celsius, detecting that the vital signs in the train area are rapidly declining. In the past hour, 32 people have died from hypothermia or fall injuries. Hearing this, I just nodded, without a single ounce of pity on my face. In my past life, every single one of these people kicked me when I was down. Not a single one of them is innocent. I looked at the security monitors, watching those figures squeezing back into the carriages like bugs, and opened the broadcasting system's control panel. My finger pressed down on a red button. It played a pre-recorded audio clip. After that, I turned around and headed to the bedroom to get some rest. Time skipped to 12 noon on the second day of the train being trapped. Even though it was high noon, it was still as dark as night outside. Heavy, leaden clouds blotted out the sun, and the blizzard had already buried half of the train. The temperature inside the carriages hovered around -20 degrees. Most people had only brought snacks when they boarded, and those snacks were completely wiped out during last night's panic-eating frenzy. Now, even a piece of expired candy could spark a bloody brawl. In the soft sleeper of Carriage 9, Lu Rian's family huddled together on the bottom bunk. The military coats they wore were no longer keeping them warm, because the insides were soaked with cold sweat. Now, they had frozen solid into sheets of ice, sticking stiffly to their bodies. Lu Hao curled up with a pale face, his dry, cracked lips covered in bleeding sores. He hadn't eaten a single thing in 10 hours. "I'm so hungry. Mom, I'm starving." Zhang Quilian rubbed her son's head with heartbreak, then shot a vicious glare at Lu Rian. "Rian, do you have any food left in your bag? Even a piece of chewing gum would do." Lu Rian weakly shook her head. The pain in her ribs made it almost impossible to breathe. "It's gone, it's really gone. The last piece of chocolate was already snatched and eaten by my brother just now." Zhang Quilian yelled back without a shred of guilt. "He is your brother. He's a growing boy, so what if he ate a piece? And what about that bag of yours? Doesn't that crocodile skin bag have a hidden compartment? Look again." Lu Rian desperately clutched the bag to her chest. This was her final shred of dignity, and the only proof left for her delusion that I might still love her. "Mom, why don't you ask Dad? He looked like he hid half a pack of cookies earlier." Instantly, all eyes locked onto Lu Dacheng, who was cowering in the corner. Lu Dacheng's body froze, and he instinctively clutched the pocket on his chest. "It's gone. That was just an empty wrapper I picked up." This time, the one who lunged at him was none other than his very own son, Lu Hao. Lu Hao pounced on him like a rabid dog, violently tearing at his father's clothes. Zhang Quilian jumped in to help, screaming at him, "You old fool, are you even human? Your son is about to starve to death. You've been holding out on us." After a brief scuffle, half a crushed pack of Oreos fell out, but there were only 3 cookies left. Seeing this, Lu Hao's eyes widened. He snatched up 2 of them and shoved them right into his mouth. He swallowed them whole, without even chewing. As for the last piece, it dropped onto the floor, right into the mud and ice. Zhang Quilian threw herself at it, picked it up, and blew off the dirt. She took a bite out of half of it, and then, the remaining half. That muddy, soggy cookie, she handed right back to Lu Hao. "Here, have a little more. Don't starve yourself." As for Lu Dacheng and Lu Rian, they didn't even get a single crumb. Lu Rian watched the whole scene unfold, and tears streamed down her face. Not because she was moved, but because her heart had turned to ice. These were her family members. These were the people she had betrayed me for. Suddenly, the train's public address system, which had been broken, eerily crackled to life. "Good afternoon, fellow passengers. I know you're all freezing right now. As a former passenger of this very train, I've decided to give you a little bonus." At the very bottom of the freezer in the dining car, car number 10, there is a locked, hidden compartment. Inside is a whole case of self-heating military rations. We've got braised pork, chicken curry, and even a few bottles of strong, high-proof liquor. Those words were like throwing a cup of water into a boiling pot of oil. Everyone in the carriage perked up instantly. But I wasn't finished. As for the key to that compartment, I hid it somewhere in car number 14, right there in the hard seat section. To be more precise, it's on a certain passenger wearing a puffer jacket. I wasn't lying to them. There really was a box of military rations in the dining car. But the whole thing about hiding the key? I just made that up. Right at that moment, Lu Rian's family in car number 9 heard the broadcast too. They were the closest to the dining car. If they could just get that key, they could hog that entire box of food all to themselves. Lu Hao jumped to his feet, his eyes glowing with a terrifying, predatory greed. "Hurry up, get to car number 14. That key is ours." The 3 of them frantically rushed toward car number 14. But Lu Rian knew me better than that. She knew this was probably a trap. Still, driven by the burning agony of starvation, she joined the hunt too. The carriage had already descended into absolute chaos. Everyone was shoving and fighting, desperately searching for anyone in a puffer jacket. And then, my voice echoed from the speakers once more. "Oops, my apologies, I just remembered, it wasn't someone in a puffer jacket. I think it was a certain young lady wearing a pink coat. Instantly, every single pair of eyes locked onto Lu Rian, who had just squeezed through the door. Lu Rian froze. She looked down at her own expensive coat, and then, she heard the sound of hundreds of throats all around her, gulping hungrily at the exact same time. Someone spoke up first, their voice dry and raspy. Pink. She's wearing pink. Lu Rian was so completely terrified she nearly wet herself, her legs trembling uncontrollably. No, it's not me. Long Ji-yu is lying. He's tricking you all. I don't have any key hidden on me. I'm his girlfriend, I swear. Lu Dacheng finally snapped back to reality. He let out a massive roar, yelling at Lu Rian to run. But he didn't rush forward to protect his daughter. Instead, he turned tail and bolted in the opposite direction back to car number 9. Zhang Quilian shrieked, grabbing Lu Hao, trying to squeeze through the crowd to run for their lives. At this life or death moment, their so-called family bond proved to be more fragile than a thin sheet of paper. The sheer terror of being abandoned instantly overwhelmed Lu Rian. Her survival instinct triggered an astonishing burst of strength. She frantically ripped off her expensive pink coat and whipped it hard right into the brute's face. Trying to blind him, the brute ripped the coat away, and slammed his axe into the back of a nearby seat, sending sparks flying everywhere. You filthy bitch, you dare mess with me? Go get her, whoever catches her gets the first bite of meat. With that command, the entire carriage completely erupted into absolute madness. The people who were just moments away from starving to death were suddenly acting like they'd been pumped full of pure adrenaline. Lu Rian stumbled and crashed her way into the space connecting the two train cars. To her absolute despair, she realized that the door leading to sleeper car number 9 was locked tight. Through the heavy frost on the glass, she saw her own father, Lu Dacheng, and her younger brother, Lu Hao. They were desperately bracing themselves against the door handle from the inside. Lu Rian banged frantically on the glass, screaming her lungs out in absolute agony. Dad, Hao, please, open the door. It's me, they're trying to kill me. Please, hurry, open the door. Let me in. Behind the glass, Lu Hao's once innocent face was now twisted into something resembling a vicious demon. He screamed through the glass, stay away. You're the one they want. If you come in, you're just going to get us killed too. Lu Dacheng kept his head down too, completely unable to look his own daughter in the eye. He just shoved his shoulder against the door as hard as he could. Rian, for the sake of our family, please, just sacrifice yourself. You're the one Long Ji-yu hates anyway. The heavy footsteps of the mob chasing Lu Rian were closing in fast. Just then, Zhang Quilian, who couldn't run fast enough, also found herself trapped in the connecting area. She had tried to follow her husband and son inside earlier, but was ruthlessly locked out instead. Now, this normally bitter and mean middle-aged woman was huddled in the corner, shaking with sheer terror. She grabbed Lu Rian's arm, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. Rian, what do we do? They're here. The massive figure of the brute appeared right at the entrance of the car connection. Behind him was a packed mob of bloodthirsty, red-eyed thugs. With her back against the freezing train door, Lu Rian had absolutely nowhere left to run. Her gaze suddenly shifted down to her mother, Zhang Quilian, who was standing right beside her. In my past life, right in front of that very train door, she had pushed me down to the mob just to save her own life. Now, in this life, trapped in this exact same dead end, history was repeating itself in the most shocking way. Before Zhang Quilian could even react, Lu Rian violently thrust out both her hands, grabbed her mother by the shoulders, and with every single ounce of strength she had left, shoved Zhang Quilian right into the brute. Taking advantage of the split second the brute was blocked, Lu Rian went absolutely feral. She smashed her elbow brutally into the glass window of the nearby bathroom, which was already cracked from the earlier chaos. Then, without a single thought for anything else, she scrambled inside and deadbolted that flimsy, broken plastic door. From outside the door came Zhang Quilian's agonizing death wails, quickly followed by the spine-chilling, gruesome sounds of the mob tearing into her, mixed with the savage roars of the crowd fighting over their newly found food. Lu Rian huddled tightly in the tiny bathroom, her back pressed hard against the toilet bowl, covering her ears with her hands as hard as she possibly could. Meanwhile, watching all of this unfold from my underground bunker halfway up the mountain, my pupils shrank in sheer shock. I slowly set down my wine glass and muttered in a dark, low voice, What an absolutely spectacular performance, Lu Rian. You are still just as cold-blooded and ruthless as you were in our past life. Day 3 of the train being trapped. Morning came, and my voice echoed through the train's intercom once again. Good morning, survivors. I watched everything unfold last night through the security cameras. Truly breathtaking, especially that little shove from Miss Lu Ruyan. A textbook display of pure survival instinct. And Mr. Lu Hao slamming the door shut in everyone's face? That left me absolutely speechless too. Sitting huddled around the fire pit, Lu Ruyan and the other two shivered at the exact same time. Lu Ruyan snapped her head up. She glared daggers at the speaker on the ceiling. My voice oozed with amusement. Feels pretty ironic, doesn't it? The truth is, that box of military rations never even existed. The key didn't exist either. But you guys were too out of your minds to even think straight back then. You were just starving. Desperately looking for an excuse to eat something. Or, to eat someone. Lu Hao suddenly lost his mind. He clutched his head and screamed, "Shut up. Just shut up. Long Gu, I'm gonna kill you." The things Lu Hao had just choked down started churning violently in his stomach. An overwhelming wave of nausea hit him, and he began to throw up violently, puking up chunks of undigested, mangled flesh. My voice just kept echoing through the train's speakers. For the next month, the temperature will hold steady at around -80 degrees. Once the very last chair is burned to ashes, and all your heat and food are completely gone. Who are you planning to eat next? My voice over the intercom dripped with pure, poisonous suggestion. Mr. Lu Da-Chang, you're getting old. Your meat is probably way too tough. I doubt anyone would enjoy chewing on that. But Lu Hao, you're so young. Nice and tender. You'd definitely be the prime cut, right? And as for you, Lu Ruyan, you are so incredibly smart. So absolutely ruthless. I have zero doubt you'll be the last one standing. After all, you didn't even hesitate to butcher your own mother. With that said, I sat back in my underground bunker's control room and switched off the microphone. I watched the security feed on the screens. Lu Hao was staring with this utterly terrified, defensive look, glaring at his own sister and father. Meanwhile, Lu Ruyan was sizing up her little brother's neck with a cold, dead-eyed stare. The chain of suspicion had officially been forged. Inside that sealed, icy coffin of a train, family didn't exist anymore. There was only backup food. I walked over to the cabinet and took out a perfectly crafted slice of tiramisu. I scooped up a bite with a silver spoon and tasted it. The sweetness and the bitterness, it tasted exactly like revenge. I called out my command to the control room. System, cut all power to the train. And shut down all my external floodlights, too. The massive spotlights that had been blasting the train from the top of my bunker instantly went dead. The entire world plunged back into an endless, suffocating darkness. I strolled over to the massive floor-to-ceiling windows and stared out at the pitch-black snowfields. In the 5 months since I had been reborn, I had lived every single day just for this very moment. Now, my vengeance was finally complete. The people who tore me apart were now suffering through a hell far worse than death. But I didn't feel empty inside. Because this apocalypse, it was only just beginning. That frozen train was nothing but a tiny speck. Out there, in the distant cities. Across the massive, ruined wastelands, there were probably endless threats and challenges waiting for me. It had been exactly 17 days since train K1109 was trapped. The blizzard, after raging relentlessly for half a month, had finally stopped today. But Mother Nature wasn't showing mercy. No, this was just the beginning of a much crueler punishment. A pale, dead sun hung high in the sky, without a single drop of warmth to give. The air itself felt like it was frozen solid. The outside temperature had plummeted to -85 degrees Celsius. The snow on the ground was a staggering 4.5 meters deep. A rhythmic, grinding sound of machinery shattered the dead silence of the valley. The heavy blast doors of my fortress slowly ground open. I stepped out into the whiteout. I was wearing an incredibly expensive, heavily modified, fully enclosed, extreme cold exoskeleton suit that I bought off a polar research team. Black polymer armor covered my entire body, while streams of blue data flickered across my helmet's visor. A built-in micro-nuclear battery powered the heating mesh and the movement assist systems humming across my body, keeping my core temperature at a perfectly comfortable 36 degrees Celsius, even in this brutal, frozen wasteland. I could move around with total ease. Strapped to my back was a high-pressure pneumatic rifle. and I held a carbon fiber trekking pole in my hand. Today was the first day of the Lunar New Year, after all. I felt like taking a walk, and paying my dear old friends a little New Year's visit. I activated the exoskeleton skiing mode, and sped down the icy, frozen slopes. A few minutes later, I arrived at the top of the Eagle Beak Cliff Bridge. The once majestic railway bridge had been completely swallowed by ice and snow, turned into a massive, crystal-clear structure of ice. And as for the K1109 train, only a faint, ghostly outline remained. Most of the cars were buried deep beneath the snow. Only a single corner of car number 9 poked out, jutting into the air like a frozen tombstone. I adjusted my helmet's breathing valve, and stepped up to the window of car number 9. The glass had shattered a long time ago, totally sealed off by heavy layers of ice. I raised my robotic arm, cranked up the built-in heaters, and melted right through the icy blockage. Once I'd cleared a small peephole, I flicked on my high-beam flashlight and shined it inside. The glaring beam cut through the darkness, and my pupils shrank. It was a twisted display of ice sculptures, a literal museum of hell. The train car was frozen exactly in its final moments of absolute chaos. Corpses were piled up, scattered everywhere. Because the flash freeze happened so fast, they still wore the exact expressions they had in their very last second of life. Some had their mouths ripped open in silent screams. Others were curled up into tight little balls, frozen mid-sob. One person was even clutching a bloody piece of wood in a death grip. And right there, in the middle of the aisle, I spotted Liu Dacheng and Liu Hao. The father and son were locked in a desperate embrace. It wasn't out of family love, though. It was because, in those final, miserable moments, they were just trying to leach the very last drop of body heat from each other's freezing flesh. In the makeshift fire pit next to them, nothing was left but black soot. And a few sickeningly white bones. My voice drifted out through my helmet's external speakers, sounding eerie and hollow in the dead, frozen silence. Is this the ending you scumbags wanted? Well, at least the whole family is finally back together. Without another word, I turned to walk away. All the burning hatred from my past life, it just faded away with their miserable deaths. All that was left was the hollow feeling of a job done. But just as I fired up my thrusters to head back to the bunker, my suit's life signs radar suddenly beeped. A system warning flashed across my visor. Target at 3 o'clock. Distance, 50 meters. Faint thermal signature detected. I froze for a second. Then, I slowly crunched my way toward the blip on my radar. It led me behind a massive, wind-shielding boulder, halfway up the trail between the dead train and my mountain bunker. And there, tangled up in the jagged rocks and deep snow, was a human figure, half buried and barely visible. They were squirming, moving at an agonizingly slow pace, their bare fingers desperately clawing into the solid ice. I took a few steps closer, and finally got a good look at their face. It was Liu Rian. She was bundled up in 7 or 8 layers of dirty, tattered clothes. On the outside was a military coat, completely covered in blood and filth. Her hair had frozen solid into a massive block of ice. Her face was covered in frostbite and oozing pus, but those eyes, they were still wide open. Burning inside them was an inhuman obsession. Unbelievably, she had managed to crawl out of the train car right before it froze completely solid. Driven purely by that desperate, lingering obsession to survive, out there in the -85-degree blizzard. She crawled like an insect for 2 whole days and nights, all just to drag herself toward that warm, heavenly fortress she had once seen. Hearing the sound of footsteps, Liu Rian struggled to lift her heavy head. Her eyelashes were caked in thick frost, her vision completely blurred. But she could still make out that tall, dark figure. Her vocal cords were already completely destroyed by the cold. The sound she made was as raspy as a broken bellows. She reached out with a hand that had turned pitch black from frostbite, using every last ounce of her strength to grab at my ankle. I just looked down at her. Through the one-way glass of my visor, I could clearly see the sheer desperation in her eyes. That raw, undeniable thirst for life. Then, I finally spoke. Such a stubborn will to live. Even a cockroach would have to call you its ancestor. I crouched down, but I didn't reach out to help her. Instead, I popped open my helmet's visor. A puff of white steam hissed out into the icy air, revealing a face Liu Rian couldn't possibly be more familiar with. Flushed, clean, with bright, sharp eyes. Without a single trace of cold on me. Pinned to the frozen ground, Liu Rian's pupils violently widened. Her face was covered in She finally recognized exactly who was standing before her. I gave her a small, mocking smile. A smile that looked especially radiant in that extreme, deadly cold. Looking down at her pathetic form, I said, "Surprised to see me? What a shame there's no cure for regret in this world. You only reap exactly what you sow." Lu Rian's lips began to tremble wildly. Tears spilled from her eyes, freezing into solid little beads of ice the second they hit her cheeks. She wanted to speak, wanted to beg for her life, wanted to say, "I love you." Wanted to say, "Please, just give me one more chance." But she couldn't make a single sound. I unclipped a thermos from my waist and twisted off the cap. The rich, piping hot scent of brown sugar and ginger tea wafted right out into the air. In that -85-degree air, that sweet scent was basically the breath of the gods. Lu Rian stared dead at that thermos. I could hear the desperate, dry gulping in her throat. Right to her face, I took a nice, long sip, and then I poured the rest of that hot tea right into the freezing snow. Then, I snapped my visor back down and stood up. I fired up the exoskeleton thrusters on my thermal combat suit, and launched myself backward, flying up toward the mountain peak, leaving Lu Rian all alone, just lying there in front of that frozen puddle of tea. Her hand was still reaching out into the empty air, frozen in that desperate, grasping pose. The last flicker of light in her eyes finally died out. The freezing winds howled for 5 minutes, and just like that, a new ice sculpture was added to the wasteland. An ice sculpture named Greed. Meanwhile, back inside the warm bedroom of my underground bunker, I lay back on my bed, completely relaxed, and drifted off. It was the absolute best sleep I'd had since my rebirth. In the dead of this silent night, the apocalyptic winter had only just begun. But for me, spring had already arrived.